Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Wrap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby.
Hello and welcome to a Wrap special. There's no lead, it's me, Harley, today, but I have got one one-eyed Scarlet fan with me. So from Scarlet's Fever, we've got Huw. So Lee will be happy we finally found a room together. How are you doing?
Yes, finally speaking to you in real life rather than, well, not real life, but not by text. Yeah, happy to be here, mate. Can't wait to get into it.
So I wanted to throw out this little bonus pod to talk about some of the Tier 2 nations that we've all grown to love over the World Cup so far. And there's only one person other than Huw I'd be willing to talk to about that, and that's our good friend, Francisco Isaac. How are you doing, Francisco?
Hey Harley, hey Huw. You can hear from my voice the last 6 days were completely crazy. Everything happened. I went to see Ireland against Scotland, thanks to my boss in Rugby Europe, Ben Fox, who worked for the Scottish Rugby Union for a long time, and he gifted me the tickets, and it's memories I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life. I went alone. My first rugby game international alone, so it's haunting and at the same time was inspiring because everyone treated me so well, and I'm trying to not say something that going to get me emotional, but well, it was incredible. I know some people get cringe with it, but when I got there out of the Stade de France, so around it, they were singing a lot of songs from Zombie to Queen, etc. And it was incredible. Sorry for the monologue, but I think it's important to say this. Some people say it's being a boring World Cup. No one is having fun or something like that. It's a lie. I've seen the parties. It's just incredible. I know France does sports and rugby well, but it's massive. I saw like 100,000 people in Stade de France. A lot of fans didn't go inside, just stayed there drinking and so on. It's massive. I don't know if people want to hear this, but rugby can be like a freaking big global sport if you want. And I saw that, and well, let's talk about the rest, or I'll just have here a monologue about Scotland against Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know this is a pod dedicated to Tier 2, but we've heard enough about Scotland. So we'll start off with a team that I think it's safe to say is close to your heart. Portugal, which I'm sure Huw might want to inject about how good a tournament it's been for Portugal. But you were there for that what is going to be an infamous win over Fiji. How was it? I mean, I think part of the reason we had to leaving the podcast this late was to try and give you a bit of time to calm down and recover a voice.
Yeah, no, my voice wasn't that bad after the game. You can see that speech I made while I was waiting for the press conference, and I just lost my voice is like this because in the last 6 days I have an average of 4 hours of sleep between working, airplanes, canceled flights inside the plane. Everything happened to me, and if I will do it again, yeah. But let me go to the game, and firstly say sorry to the journalists that were on my side or below me or to my side, whatever, because at everything that Portugal did or the massive tackles from Fiji, I just got emotional and said, "Oh, Tigray!" And when it was 30 try, I just remember jumping and sorry, and grabbing. Sorry, yeah, and grabbing fellow journalist Sergio Lopes, and it was incredible. It's moments I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life, and it was incredible seeing the stands completely lighten up. Sorry, emotional for a minute. Talk, Harley, talk.
That's absolutely. I said I know when that Storty try went in, my wife hit me because I woke the baby up just from cheering so loud on the sofa. So I'm just a Welshman who sort of fell in love watching their qualification, and it was.
This is what sport's all about, isn't it? This is people who don't like sports say that that it's not for them. They don't understand why people get so invested in it. It's not about one game. It's about the years and the relationships and the people who you share it with. And then you get the moment where all of the pain, all of the struggle, just that this is why I did it. This made everything worth it.
Yeah, I agree completely, 100%. Look, let me just zoom out Portugal and say, for example, the guys from Romania, the World Cup didn't pan out as they wanted, which is a shame. I saw Romania in 2021 and 2022. They were like serious threat to everyone. And the World Cup wasn't good. And they both, the team all admitted it. But hearing the stories from guys like Mario Simoneshko or Cristi Chirica or Vlad Nekolau and so on, that had a long time working for it and putting their bodies for massive sacrifices, enduring injuries, playing with injuries, trying to get pro and so on. And I think people should respect them. I know, thankfully, people were nice to Romania. They understood there was something not working for them. It was not the players are bad, because you could see good things from them. Not blaming the head coach, Hugo Apio, who have a massive respect for his club career and assistant coach career with Andy Robertson. But when people, I think, after this World Cup, if I can, and this is not the end of the podcast, I think we're going to be here for a while if Harley wants and can, and you. But it's important that people after this World Cup follow these players, even if you don't see the whole games or just one game a year. Drop them a message on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or something, saying that they want them to go even bigger and so on. Because for them, they do this for the fans. They don't just do it for themselves. They do for the fans. Let me Simoneshko, in an interview I did with him, his first pro career or first pro club in Romania with 18 years old or 17, he had to move from his home like 500 kilometers. I don't know if people understand how it's difficult for a guy to leave home, his parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, friends, and go to a different city, start all over again. And the endurance you have to reach to this stage. And when you talk to them, you see that you're humans that are trying to do their best. And it falls under us. I won't say the Blazers and World Rugby. It falls under to the fans to help them to understand they matter and they're big and they matter for the sport. And that's about it. And before we go to Portugal, because I know we are now and I say we with all respect, I'm a journalist, but I have a color inside of my heart. Still root for Georgia and Romania, but go for them. Please follow them. Talk to them. If they don't want to talk to you, they were going to say it. But be human with them. Don't try to dehumanize the players or call them ugly or shit. Sorry for the cursing. Worry about these guys because the T1 players have a lot of mental problems, and it was
Men's Mental Health Day.
Yeah, 2 days ago or 1 day ago. And imagine if the T1 players have these problems. Imagine the T2 players. Imagine it, because they don't have the same support or the same system or the same structure. And that's it. Let's talk about more fun things. So sorry.
Yeah, so I think anyone can come around and say, oh, so and so is bad because of X, Y, Z. But yeah, hopefully in this, want to try and make this a little bit more of a celebration. But I think we do need to be critical as well, because I think if we're going to judge, if we want to get rid of this tier 2 label, I think we hold them to the same standards. But for me, I think the issue with Romania isn't necessarily the players. And I think it's going to be a running theme for all these nations. It's not necessarily the players; it's the systems that are there to support them. And that we still don't actually have a good real reason why Andy Robinson left. So Romania seemed to be flying high. They were, they looked good for their Europe 2 qualification, and then all of a sudden they seem to have fallen off a cliff since he's left. I don't know if you have any insight into that, Francisco, or.
I have talked about this with Huw and Callan, and in their podcasts, in Parrot and in Callan the Rugby podcast. And I don't know. I don't know what happened. I know that it wasn't good for anybody. Andy Robertson, you might not like him or like him, but he knows well how to lead teams. Those memes that from South Park. It's Kyle's father's like this thing. I heard Nobel. You know the meme?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not Kyle's or Eric. It's not Cartman. It's okay. And Romania.
I think it's Stan's dad. Yeah.
It Stan's dad. Yeah. In 2020,
that's the one.
Yeah. In 2022 against Portugal, I remember we were winning with a margin of 20 points in Bucharest. And Romania, when they start fighting back, it reminded me that meme, because they just kept going and going and they got a win. You could see that there was a team in there, massive scrum, lethal maul. They were punching, intensity and so on. And something dropped in this World Cup. We could already see it in the Rugby Europe Championship and the Summer International. Something was amiss. Something was not working. I'm not going to deliver some details from inside of the camp, for respect for you and Apiog and for the players and for the union. I work for Rugby Europe. I just don't want to go inside it. Sometimes things don't work out. That's fine. But now I think they have to do a serious job to understand what happened, so they can get better, and we have the strongest Romania possible for the next 4 years, because Romania is one of the greatest T2 countries of all time. Try to check the records of between the 70s and the 80s. Wales were afraid to go play in Romania, or the All Blacks. All Blacks almost lost in Romania. It's a very controversial game because All Blacks scored a try that at the time was not legal, but the refs made it illegal. It's a very fun story about it. And now, in the 90s, they were still powerful, and something in the last 8 years happened, and the last 4 years started dwelling, and this year something broke completely. Let's hope they can mend it and reboot and go up again.
Yeah, I think Squidge in his video talked about it, didn't it? About how Romania was in that rise in the late 20th century, and then they were prevented from going any further. But with the last game against Tonga, it was fantastic to see them smiling and enjoying that game, because the World Cup was over for them, and no one enjoyed watching them, and they had a horrible schedule playing those three big teams and not having their moment against Tonga until last. But seeing someone like I'm so sorry, you have to correct my pronunciation. Is it Surigyu, the scrum half?
Surigyu, yeah, it's good. Yeah.
He was retiring after that game, wasn't it? That was his last ever Romania game.
Yeah, I think one. Let me break down the game, because you had 3 uncontested tries from Tonga. At some point, everybody. I remember I was in media center waiting for the Portugal-Fiji game. I was watching and doing the report for the Romania, and everyone was like, "Okay, this is going to be 70s or 80s again," and so on. But after that third try, something like snapped in Romania. And you could see Florin Surigyu just smiling and punching his colleagues and saying, "Okay, let's go." And from a team that was conceding a lot of missed tackles, they came roaring back. They scored a beautiful try in the lineout, which was not a common lineout. They did a quick one, and then pick and goes like nobody was expecting, offloading, and try. And after it, Florin scored a try that's going to be memorable. It was his last try in the World Cup at 30 years old. So he's the oldest back player ever to play in a World Cup. It's just incredible. And I know the second half didn't pan out well, but they lost by just 20 points. And for a team that was completely blasted by Scotland and Ireland in the box, they came roaring back in the last game. Normally, it's the opposite. A team like Romania starts well, and then as the weeks progress, they can break. But it was otherwise. They finished strong, and I think Tonga, the game they did, should have been the game they could have done against Scotland or Ireland or South Africa. It was one of the greatest weekends ever from any World Cup, and Romania did so well. I wanted them to win. They didn't. But that last display was a sign that something is still in there, something that it's valuable, and we have to find it and bring it to the sky so they can build something from it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, you certainly as a neutral, as someone who likes, loves watching rugby games, you just want to see these teams giving it a go. And I think I haven't, actually some people have worked out, I haven't sort of planned out an order of this, but I feel like this flows next on to Namibia, who again sort of had a very tough time with it. And then in their last game against Uruguay, they showed what they could do. And I think, it was nice, I said, equally as we said, it was nice to see Romania showing some fight and what they wanted. It's it's nice to see Namibia having a go at it, despite once again having possibly the roughest end of the draw. I don't know what some of the tier 1 nations are on about with their pool things, because none of them had to play all 4 games in 19 days, and to the point that they were booted out of their hotel before some teams had played the third.
Yeah, it was crazy. I really think that they were, when the guys were making the scheduling, they must have just not given a thought to Namibia, and I think that's a real shame. And I think that's shame on the schedulers. But you're right. It was good to watch them in that final game against Uruguay, who they'd played in the summer as a warm-up game. So we kind of already knew what to expect as a result. But for me, I feel like I was the only person in the world who didn't know who Swanepoel was before the World Cup and how far he could kick the ball, because I wasn't really aware of him. And then I saw him kick his first penalty, and I was like, wow, he can really kick the ball very far. So I think he plays for the Lions in the URC, so I'm definitely going to keep an ie out for him in this season coming. And they had the guy Mouton as well, scored 2 of their 3 tries. So it was nice to see them. And it's so frustrating because they've been to 5 or 6 World Cups in a row and they haven't won a game. And they had a game planned against Canada in 2019, and that game got cancelled due to the typhoon. And I think Namibia would have backed themselves to win that game. So one day, Namibia, one day it will be your day. I was actually backing Namibia in that game because I believe that Uruguay are coming, and I don't think anything's going to stop them. But I think it would have been a bigger deal for Namibia to win that game than Uruguay. So that's my piece on them.
Anything you'd like to add with Uruguay, Francisco?
Or Namibia? I think, and now comes on. I'm going to be known by the Portuguese revolutionary that maybe I'm the spirit of someone that died in the French Revolution. I don't know, maybe so something like that. But I think Namibia for the last 4 years, and everybody can check the records, played how many games against a T1 side? I think once, maybe once. I have to check it, but I think it was once. And it's not good because you can play 4 games in 19 days. You shouldn't. You can. You shouldn't play in 19 days 4 games. But if you don't play against T1 countries for a long time, you're not going to do well. I have to applaud Alistair Coetzee courage by picking a second or third side to play against the All Blacks and France, because I know what he wanted. It was a Uruguay game. It was a terrorist game. That's it. And that shows that something is broken inside how we do the scheduling in the World Cup. Maybe for future tournaments, they're going to worry with the expansion. I think it's almost confirmed from what I've heard in Paris, and there was a lot going on in talks and so on. And I think it's a scheduling. For Uruguay, I think people should see the Super Rugby Americas and to understand that they're getting professional. So they're doing well the system. They're working very hard to have a pro system that can put players out there and send them to France or England or whatever, and so they can amass new experience. Rugby in South America is growing fast again. I know Huw is a huge fan for Brazil, and I have a long connection with them. I worked with them, and I think Brazil needs a bit of time to get things going on. I think they will, but we have to be patient. So that's my 2 cents about Uruguay and Namibia.
Yeah, excellent. I said with Namibia, the sort of only players I was vaguely aware of was Byron McGuigan being a bit of a coward and not actually playing with them in the end after declaring, and players like Kundradi, and I've forgotten the name of the one. I think he got red carded. It was the one who injured it. It was the flanker who injured himself.
Diesel.
It's not Diesel. It was the flanker who got injured in
against All Blacks.
But I've forgotten his name. They both play for New England Free Jacks. Who I know.
MLR guy. Hang on.
Mallard. It's not Mallard. Squidge was talking about him yesterday.
Conradi.
It's not Conradi. It's the other one. It's like LaRue or something.
I've got their
I
apologize
apologize
up on the fantasy game. So it's either Hardwick, Gauseb. I can't say that one. Katz, Gijeko, Boyson, Conradi, or Van Lille.
Van Lille is like a 31 years old guy.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a Free Jacks player who broke his ankle, and they were ones I was sort of aware of watching MLR a bit. I mean, I'm a Dallas fan, so I do. And I sort of only loosely follow the Free Jacks for David Lawrence, Scrum of the Earth. We chat a lot about it. So I didn't know a lot about Namibia, and they don't seem to be. I think of all the nations, they're the ones who seem to play the fewest games.
I've looked up on Flash Score now. When I've been doing research for other videos, it's really hard to even just find the games listed that these guys have played in the last 4 years. Like on Flash Score are probably the best source for it, but you normally have to piece it together with places like Absolute Rugby, or if you can find anything like somewhere like Rugby Pass doesn't even cover all of these.
Can I give an advice? Can I give a tip?
For it?
Can I give a tip? Okay. I'm going to give a tip that it's gold, but I want everybody to get into rugby for 100%. It's a website called It's Rugby. So ET''S space rugby. It's a French website, has every information you want. You just have to pay like 10 euros a year or 15, something like this. You have everything, every single thing. And if you want if you want records, so past matches or something, the best website from an Italian guy called Rugby Archive. It's like class, pure gold.
I think we'll stick the links of the companies up on the description, or at least whenever we share this, whenever this goes out.
I've just opened the tabs on my laptop, so I'll share them in a bit. But going back to Namibia, thank you, Francisco. I will look at those later. So the fixtures for Namibia that I've been able to find since the last World Cup are Kenya, Zimbabwe, Spain, Canada, Argentina 15, Uruguay, Chile, and then this World Cup. And that's since 2019.
Yeah, so it's basically qualifying and warm-ups. Which I think you've got to part of the blame of that does have to go with the Namibian Union. They do get money to help put on games and try and host, but also teams have got to be willing to go and play. South Africa got lots of plaudits post-lockdown when they did a warm-up game versus Georgia, but they've got a neighbour next door who'd be desperate for some actual proper test, because Kenya might be coming up and coming based on their sevens performance, but if I remember rightly, a lot of those are just blowouts, and they just certainly in World Cup cycles gone by, they've just sort of waltzed into Africa one and then not really had a test.
Yeah. So Namibia beat Kenya 60 points to 24, and they beat Zimbabwe 41 points to 10. So that gives you some kind of perspective. It was a close game with Canada, though. But
we've seen Canada.
It's Canada.
Yeah, I think we've all considered that. Yeah, so I as we briefly mentioned we've mentioned Uruguay. I suppose the best. Do we think? Again, I don't want to try and keep it positive. Do we think they've come back? They've come back to the World Cup, and have you? For me, I think they're probably the team that best handled both New Zealand and France in that pool.
I think they gave France a better game than anyone else in their pool did. Obviously, it was a much changed France team, but I think even though they didn't win it, I think that game against France was such a huge statement. They'll be maybe a bit sad about not beating Italy. They said before that game, didn't they, that was their World Cup final. They wanted to make that their statement game, and they got quite close to Italy. I think it was last year where it was 17-10 to Italy in Italy. And of course, they were leading at half time. But if you remember in that game, I think Italy had a couple of men sent off, and Uruguay kind of failed to capitalise. And as Wales fans, we know how that feels. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing for them. One player there. Well, I want to shout out 3 Uruguayan players. Echeverri, their fly half, got 5 try assists. Now, try assist stats are very subjective. Like, for instance, Jack Morgan is only down as having 1 try assist, even though he definitely actually got 3. But I think it's to do with how the ball bounces, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so 5 is good, and especially for a tier 2 nation. And it shows how they like to play. They were very watchable, and they played through 10, and they always going for tries. They didn't kick for goal very much, which is maybe a stage of their development next. And then, obviously, Freitas is the guy that everybody saw as scoring the tries, the exciting winger. And then you got Amaya as well on fullback, was their top try scorer with 3. So those are the exciting guys. And then you got Arata as well, the scrum half that everybody knew about before the tournament. So this is, we've now got characters. I've not followed a World Cup as closely as this with spreadsheets before. So now I've got characters that we can look out for in the future. I'm looking up, like Echeverri plays for Peñarol, who are the champions of the Super Rugby Americas. So this is something for us to keep an eye on in the future. And next time they come to a World Cup, we'll know who they are. I think Uruguay were a very young team. And as Francisco said, they are taking positive action to move forward and progress. I think they did quite well in the Under-20s trophy as well, the one below the championship this year. So yeah, Uruguay are going to be the next Georgia, in my opinion.
Let's. Anything else to add to Uruguay? Or are you happy to move on there, Francisco?
I think you just nailed on the last sentence. I think Uruguay can be the next Georgia. I just hope that not. I'm saying to Argentina to get out of the Rugby Championship, not that, but South America is turning out to be incredible continent to see rugby. If the Lions one day go there, they're going to fill their pockets. Believe what I'm saying. They're going to fill their pockets.
Yeah. I think the Lions needs to remodel, but that's a whole nother pod. That's a whole nother pod.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not go, because that is a conversation that really does really spread me a bit thin on opinions of it. We're both loving traditional rugby and wanting it to grow. As we say, so we think Uruguay is going to be the next Georgia. So if we move on to the Lelos, I think safe to say not the World Cup they were hoping for. I think they were I think when we did a pod for Rock and Roll, Francisco, we were saying about how they were strongly eyeing up that third place. I know Hughes mentioned on pods how baffled he was with people suggesting they could go out, but I think actually generally Pool C was that mad a pool. I wouldn't have been shocked if it happened. I just I wouldn't say that was what I'd think happened. But
look,
is it just the fact that everyone was had really high expectations of Georgia, and maybe not necessarily knowing Portugal, and Portugal were able to slip by and bring their results, or do you think it's just a sign of how competitive that pool was?
Well, let me first say something which is important. Some people are saying that if Scotland got drafted to the Pool C, it would have been easy for them. I think this shows a bit of disrespect for Pool C, because I think it was the best one out of the World Cup.
Comfortably.
Yeah, comfortably. I think Wales, people are not getting this, but Wales can go to the semis, and anything can happen in a World Cup. So it shows, Australia is not doing well. We all know, we saw it. I think it was a problem before the World Cup. I get what Eddie Jones was trying to do, but it was not the time to do it. It was not the time to do it, in my honest opinion. But he's a head coach; he knows better than me, of course. So if Eddie hears this, it's my opinion. If you want to discuss one day about it, I'll be free. Then you have Fiji, which improved like sensationally. Against Wales and Australia, they showed structured rugby. For Fijians, this is a massive improvement. There's a system, and more than a system, there's an idea of game they want to do. Yeah, it didn't work well with Georgia and worse against Portugal, but Portugal will go there. And I explain to you what I think from watching outside of the pitch happened. And I think it's a problem that Fiji will have to work in years to come. But Pool C was massive. And then we have Georgia. I think the problem was that everybody, including me, made massive expectations. And I said this, and I got to a good debate with Tier 2 account, that I think they peaked too early. Now the conversation always about Ireland. In 2019, they peaked. 2019, they broke down. And he says, justly, that they won the Rugby World Championship in the final against Portugal by like more than 20 points. But at the time, I thought they were playing incredibly well, but I was worried if they were going to peak too soon. And what came wrong with Georgia was mainly what happened against Australia. If they opted for strategy, it was, I think we talked about this already in the wrap, in the Pirate podcast, that, and sorry for my voice, it's getting worse by the minute, but I'm going to endure it because I love doing this with you. But the strategy didn't pan out. You cannot let Niniashvili not have the ball. You can't. The kicking doesn't work. And then against a team like Australia, if you kick a lot, they're going to say thank you because they like to attack with the ball in their hands. You must not kick, and that was a problem. In the stats, I know Huw loves stats, and I do a lot of it. I just don't expose it because some of it I can't. But Tabu Tsatsi, which is an incredible winger, in the whole World Cup, received like 20 passes. This is nothing. This is nothing. And every time he gets the ball with a bit of space, he's a menace. He has speed, step, and so on. And that was the problem. Against Australia, everything backfired in the first half. And that first half tells you the full story of their World Cup. They excel in some sections, but when in the critical moments, they broke down. Against Wales, I thought they were going to win against Wales. Honestly, in the last game. When Niniashvili scored that try, I said, okay, it's now. It's now. They're completely pumped. But then Wales showed why they can be World Cup winners. You could see the players' faces. Okay, let's show these guys what we can do in 10 minutes. And poof, poof, and poof. And I know it's a problem. They missed a lot of players. Gorgadze got injured against Portugal, which was a shame. Incredible loose forwards. One of my favorite number 8s at the moment. Shalva Mamakushvili played a bit injured. Merab Sharikadze had to endure injuries too. He played against Wales injured. I don't know if people understand this. He played at 50%. And this is what matters so much for them to play in the World Cup. And I think Wales-Georgia is becoming like a fierce rivalry. It's an incredible game to see it. I know the final score was more than 20 points margin, but it was a great game. I think Georgia were unlucky. I think it was their second worst World Cup ever. But when you look to the stats, it worked very good. So what mattered was the small details. And I think in the future, I hope Levin Masiashvili stays. I don't believe like firing him because it was just one World Cup. And I believe he can build. And let me just finish this monologue very quickly. Some people are criticizing that he picked a lot of Black Lion players. So the franchise that plays in Super Cup and is going to play in the Challenge Cup with the Scarlets, right?
Yes, that's right. They're in our pool.
Yeah. And you have to understand that franchise is giving professional contracts to players. You cannot kick them out of the national team when they're working like 200%. I'm not saying the players that in France are not working, but Sharikadze, Tabutsatse, Matkava, Papidze, Jaini now is playing in Van, and I hope he gets a full recovery in 9 months with all my heart because I love that guy. And you have a lot of Tuskeritsi, Ivanashvili. You cannot say to these guys, okay, as you play in a Georgian franchise, you cannot go to the national team or you're going to be always look like third or fourth choices. It doesn't work like this. Sorry, guys. It doesn't work like this.
No one says that about the Fijian Drua, do they? No one says that Fiji shouldn't pick Drua players.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It's the same principle for me. It's, you have a team and you build that cohesion around it. And like the whole reason why Andy Farrell might necessarily pick a player who others don't think is as good as another player is because the cohesion and they work with that system all the time. I mean, I think that's the sole reason behind Ross Burns' career is because of the cohesion with Leinster.
Can I say something?
Go for it.
It is a personal experience of mine. I remember I had a lot of coaches in my lifetime as a player, and sometimes other more experienced guys that didn't play for like 3 months got picked ahead of me because the coach knew that they knew the system fully well and they will be vital for that match. I played 10 minutes. The guy played like 60. He didn't train as much as me, but I understand it's the system. You want to win. That's about it. You want to win. And yeah, at the time I got angry. After 20 years after it, I said, I see it and say, it was the right choice. It is the right choice. Because the Black Lion, the World Cup wasn't good, but I can tell you, every kid that is playing in Georgia will look to the Black Lion like the top before the Georgian national team. That's it. You can go to play. Yeah, you can go to Batumi or any Georgian side, but then there's a franchise that can help you, give you experience. They play. Look, they play in the Curry Cup. They are playing in the Challenge Cup. They play in the Rugby Europe Super Cup. This is an excellent idea. Just give a bit more time to Georgia to work it out.
I want to pick on something you said there, Francisco. You said that these Black Lion players are giving 200%. They literally are. They played in Rugby Europe Cup and Curry Cup at the same time. That's how much these guys are giving, and that's unbelievable. And then I think they went to South America and toured all of the Super Rugby America teams and beat all of them. I think they lost to an invitational South America team, which why wasn't that on TV? That would have been amazing. I wish I could have watched that. But yeah, I can't wait to see them play in the Challenge Cup. I'm a lot of Scarlets fans are very sad that we've got them at home rather than we're going over to Georgia to play them. I think a lot of Scarlets fans wanted to go and play them away.
Yeah, I'd love. I'm not. I mean, well, I'm nominally. My wife's a Scarlets fan, and I'd say they're my second region. Don't tell Jamie O'Cowan from the rap. But yeah, I would have gone because I think it was the 2019 warm-up game versus Scotland in Tbilisi, and like just showing the pictures of the stadium and like the crowd noise. I just went,
it's so loud.
I want to go there. I've got to go there.
Tannoy. Yeah. I want to just ask Francisco one more thing on Georgia. The thing that really annoys me in the UK when people talk about Georgia is people who don't follow them very much just say, well, Georgia, they're a great scrum, they're physical, blah, blah, blah. And we know that Georgia have evolved so much about that, and their backs play, and people like Niniashvili and things are such incredible players. Do you think that played subconsciously on Georgia's minds that we're so determined to show that we are not just a scrum, that maybe that subconsciously made them play too much?
Well, it's a great question. It's like, if this was Final Fantasy or role-playing game, it will be like 90 hits. It's perfect. Yeah, maybe. I think Niniashvili was not phased about. Against Australia, he was phased because he missed two things, and I think his mind was all over the place. And I think Levin Matsashvili, at the time, I criticized him pulling out that he pulled him out of the game like in 60 after that mistake. So he did that offload to Tupu, and then he did a knock on from an NRL challenge. But after it, he just was impressive until the end of the World Cup. And I think it might be, the problem is the Georgian scrum was not as stable as in past, and I think some people are attacking or criticizing Papice form, and I get it. He was away a long time ago, but I think mainly their attack system, if they want something, they should focus on it. And against Australia, as I told you, they didn't go for the system in the first 40 minutes. They went for the system in the second half, but it was too late. There was a deficit of 20 points, and you know how it works in your head. You want to speed up things and score tries and so on, but it doesn't work like that. Against Fiji, you saw what Georgia is like. The only mistake they did was that try that Abutsati scored. We can go for it if it was fourth pass or not, but it was the only mistake. If they scored that try, they would have won it against Fiji. I believe fully they would have won that game. And I think it might have backfired against them. Yeah. Well, let me just add something to your question. What helped Portugal in this World Cup is they were Jack in the Box surprise. Look, I knew how they play it. I didn't know about some things of the system. They kept their aces inside their sleeves for a long time. I think in the Rugby Europe Championship, they didn't show 40% of what were they planning for the World Cup. And Georgia showed everything to everyone, and that didn't help because then coaches like Gatlin is a mastermind, looks at it, he has a massive respect for T2 sides, and he studies them. And I think Portugal surprised Gatland. And that's why he was like shocked in that match, what happened. But against Georgia, he knew fully well how to win it. And I think Georgia showed their cards too early, and that with the pressure of doing well, because at the end of the day, I'm almost sure that their dream was the quarterfinals. It was not even a third place. It was I was almost cursing. It was a quarterfinals. They wanted to go to the knockout stage, and when they lost that chance, well, I think they started to phase out. I will just another detail. When I was in press conference after the Georgia-Portugal match, Sharikadze, who I respect a lot, was like angry. And he wasn't angry with Portugal or the referee or something. He was angry with him and with the team because he knows that he could have done better, but they don't know they could have done better. I don't know if this makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's small tweaks. If they do the small tweaks, and I'll say this, now the revolution thing comes again. Revolution, if they play more against T1 side, and they did a lot in the last 2 years, which is good. Italy, Wales, England, Scotland, Ireland, France. If they keep doing this, you're going to have like massive Georgia.
Yeah. They maybe that's what caused them to give their game plan away, because they had those huge matches against Italy at home and Wales away where they had to make a statement, they felt. So anyway, I could talk about Georgia all night. Should we talk about some Pacific Islanders, Harley?
Yeah, I said, I mean, having you on the pod, I feel like it'd be rude not to talk about some of your beloved Pacific Islanders.
So
who
ahead,
would you like to start with? Should we start?
I don't want to talk about Fiji too much because they're still in it. So we're going to have plenty of chance to talk about them next week as well. All I'll say is against the Portugal game, I think that Simon Rai-Louis tried to do what Gatland did against Portugal and play a changed team, and it backfired. But Batito is not a 10, so I think that was a huge mistake, and I was really shocked at how long he waited before bringing Teller off the bench. I think Teller should have come on at 60 minutes at the latest. With Batito, they had no shape, they had no direction. You could see that his kicking to touch wasn't good enough. You could see that they weren't going for goal because Lamani, I think, kicked most of his goals, but they weren't like Lee Halfpenny, Dan Bigger straight over. They were wobbling a bit. So that was disappointing. But I think now for Fiji, they just have to park that and forget it. But think of something to blame it on and blame it on that even if it's not true, and just psychologically move on. It's a huge game against England. And obviously England had the game against Samoa where they were struggled, and everything that Samoa are good at, Fiji can be better at. So everything that a Samoa strength is a Fijian strength. So that's what gives them belief for the quarterfinals. Like I said, let's not talk about Fiji too much. Samoa, they will be kicking themselves. Samoa had the opportunity and the talent to get out of their pool. I think what went on with Sopawanga? Okay, so I'm criticizing them because they showed that they were able to be at a level. So I don't want to patronize them by saying, oh, they did well done them. I want to show them the respect by asking the questions of what went wrong that meant that they didn't get out of the pool. And for me, playing Paiawa as a fullback, maybe not psychologically turning up for some games like the game against Japan where they won it in the PNC. Maybe they thought that they were easily going to win it again. And not picking Sopawanga, even though he wasn't injured, and he was amazing in the game against Ireland, and he was amazing again in the game against England. Harley, mate, but is this the one that got away for Samoa?
I think so, particularly that England game. I think they had that, but I think the Argentina. Again, you mentioned the Ireland game, and I think everyone watched that and went, and we all sort of, even people who aren't following Tier 2 nations stood back because, all right, it probably wasn't Ireland's full strength team, but even Ireland's not full strength team is still a hard team to beat, and they're running that close. And it was this, I think, for a lot of people, it was the style of game and the level of control that everyone went, hang on, this is this is something that's going to cause an upset. And Paul D, I think there was not. I don't think any team particularly performs as well as they'd like. I'd say probably England performed better.
England overperformed
by just
as we
realizing
saw on
they are good
King's
at
Graph.
being bullies, and that works. Yeah, we had the conversation about offline about would Charles Piatow at 15, if he was Samoan, would they have done better? Because just given that extra reassuredness. I think not playing Sopwanga for all the games, I think probably had a thing, because I think Leali'ifano is a great player and still is very good, but for me, I think Sopwanga at 10 just gives Samoa so much more direction, and I think their pack is really good. I think Theo McFarland is just he was going even when he's not highlight reel Theo McFarland, he's still. I think losing Chris Fui was a bit as well, because I think his leadership and Stephen Luatua, so those two work into. I mean that back line, was it Fritz Lee, Theo McFarland, and Stephen Luatua in the England game, was just like, that is a back row that you'd put up against any team, and you'd think that they can cause problems at line out time, carrying, defense, over ball. Like they were just great. But I think they did get away. I feel like they should have done a bit better than he did.
Yeah, Fritz Lee. I didn't realize, because I picked out Fritz Lee as one of the top performers that I saw in the pool stages, and I didn't realize that he's not an open side. He's a number 8, but he was playing at open side this tournament, and he got something like 7 turnovers, which is if Nicholas Martins and Jack Morgan didn't exist, you'd say he was the best open side at the World Cup. But I think that sums up Samoa, is that there's just, with a population that small, they were just playing so many players out of position. Like I said, Paiawa at fullback, Fritz Lee at open side to accommodate Stephen Luatua at number 8. And they were playing Charlie Faumuina at loose head, and I think he was a tight head when he was an All Black.
I think he was the wrong side.
Yeah. So that just sums it up for them. Of course, you got their Pacific neighbours Tonga, and Francisco, I want to ask you about this. With the change to the eligibility rules, where they had all their new players come in, a lot of people got very excited about Tonga. Is there a risk that the Tonga side gets trapped in this cycle now of players get capped for the Wallabies or the All Blacks, and then go and get a big contract in Europe, and then wait 3 years and then turn up for Tonga at the very end of their career? Is that just a cycle they're going to become trapped in?
I hope not. Look, when people got really excited with the new LGBT laws, and everyone was saying, Tonga is going to be a massive threat. And you can see the tweets, mainly with Paul Williams, because I thought consistency is key in the team, as all we know. Yeah. Samoa had consistency. Sopwanga was a bit injured, not in form, and when he came in, was fine, and so on. But Tonga, you could see that something was wonky. It's the best word for it. You had Piotau. I think Moala was a big omission for the team. That suspension killed 50% of their attacking form, because he's like a stupidly good threat. You give him the ball, he doesn't stop. That type of carrier. I think the scrum was good. The line-out was not working, and that was a problem. Physicality-wise, they were good, but attacking was too high, and so on. It's a lot of things that, at the end of the day, won't help you. I think there was too much expectation for a team, and you can bring all the superstars that you want. If there's no consistency, there's no thing that glues a team together, you're going to lose it. I think they need more competition, as most of the teams. For example, Portugal had 4 years that 90% of the team that went to the World Cup is the same team that was drafted in 2020. With Marks only came in 2021. Tadger was already in 2020. Nicolas Martins only in 2022, but we'll go for Portugal and explain to you some of the stories behind it, if you have time, if you want. But and Tonga wasn't that. It was like last one half of a year, and that's not that much of time to build a team. Samoa had more time with Moana Pacifica, which helped them a lot. And I hope that the New Zealand Rugby Union respects their path, because we want them to be a getaway for players from Samoa and Tonga to go big, because, well, the regional competition in Samoa and Tonga is complicated. Fiji one is very interesting. It's incredible rugby situation. I have a lot of friends playing there. And I think that was the problem for Tonga. Consistency didn't exist. And against Romania, they almost blew it over. But the second half is what Tonga wants, is a team that is muscle with brains. They start punching and go and bullying around. That missed against the Boks or Ireland. They weren't bullies enough against these teams. They could resist for 20 minutes, and then the next half an hour they backtracked. And against a team like Ireland or Scotland or the Boks, you can't do that. You're gonna get like 5 tries, and you won't. It's impossible to overcome.
Yeah, they actually scored more points against Ireland in the first half than Scotland did. I will just just let people know that. I think Celeste Pietau at fullback as well in that Romania game. I think he just decided, I'm going to go out there and have fun. I'm going to show what I can do. I'm going to throw all the steps, throw all the tricks, and just celebrate what might be his last ever time playing an international rugby game. I think, with the age of their squad. Going back to what you're talking about, consistency, I think Adam Coleman is a great example of that, because I believe he had visa issues and couldn't play for them for a long time. So he might have played his first game for Tonga in like the second or third game of a World Cup. That just sums up where their selection was, but they took him along anyway because of the quality. And Scarlet's legends, Sam Lucy and Veer Fafita as well, when they're not being red carded. So yeah,
what can we say? They love the colour.
They love the colour. That's my favorite colour of card, ref.
Yeah, it's the one thing I do want to bring up to, because you did mention them, and obviously it links back to our thing about black light. Having Georgia having the black lion, Fiji having the Drua, you've got the Lusitanos of Portugal as well. Moana Pacifica isn't really. It's not a Samoan team. It's not a Tongan team. So I know, Huw, you've brought it up on Pirate Pod before. There's no way of building a team around it. Like, do we think they need to actually split it? Could they afford to split it as well, which is, I guess, part of the problem.
At the moment, they're being bankrolled by New Zealand Rugby, and it's a bit of a funny situation, really. New Zealand Rugby are paying for them, and then they play their games in New Zealand. So with your tinfoil hat on, you're asking, are they a sixth New Zealand franchise? Now, the thing that doesn't help that conspiracy theory is that their two best players, Tavatava Nawai and Amua, both got signed by New Zealand franchises. And I think Amua is going to the Crusaders and Tavatava Nawai is going to the Highlanders with Reece Patchell. Reece Patchell's Highlanders, we must call them from now on.
I like them. I like them when they were the Freddie Burns Highlanders, but I quite like the Reece Patchell Highlanders as well.
I think they're going to sign Lee Halfpenny. That's my tip.
Do you know what? Anyway. I'll be honest. What I've seen from the highlights and hearing about it, because obviously I know Huw, you do buy Sky Sports, which I feel like you kind of need to with the games you watch and cover, but I can't afford to have that extra subscription. From what I've heard, having someone who's that reliable at fullback would probably be the best thing for them.
Well, William Havili was playing for them at fullback this year. That's another one. William Havili was amazing for Tonga, but he's played all season at fullback for Moana Pacifica because Leilefano was playing fly half. So that's exactly to the point that we started with, of having two nations worth of players at one club doesn't really necessarily do much for either of them. I think, as Francisco rightly said, I think Samoa got more out of it. But yeah, so I think, look, and I take my conspiracy theory hat off. I truly hope Moana Pacifica go on and do all of the amazing things that they want them to do. They have the best rugby merch in the world. I will say Dynasty do a fantastic job for them. And they're going to be everyone's second team in Super Rugby. So yeah, I think fingers crossed, but it's Moana Pacifica aren't out of the woods yet. They're going to be coached next year by I've gone blank. Who's the guy who poleaxed Brian O'Driscoll? The former Kiwi. He was coaching Samoa this year.
Amunga?
Yes, Tano Umaga is the head coach.
Tano Umaga, yeah.
Is he going to stick with? Is he going to stay there with Samoa or? As well?
I believe he's becoming Moana Pacifica's head coach, and Stephen Jones is going to assist him.
That could be an interesting appointment.
Yeah, played against each other for the Lions and New Zealand in 2005. Stephen Jones famously keeping Johnny Wilkinson out of the fly half jersey on that tour. Anyway,
so I think. I mean, we can argue whether Japan are tier 1 or tier 2. So I mean, all I'll say is for them, I think it's nice to see Michael Leach is still awesome. I think they probably just ran out of steam against Argentina. I don't know if anyone's got any other points. And then I think if we go on to Chile, and then we can spend the whole last part talking about Portugal.
Yeah, so just interestingly on Japan is 40% of their points, just less, came from Matsuda at fly half, which is not what you associate with Japan at all. And what a luxury that is. If you look at like the box with the goal kicking issues they've had, Matsuda kicking 46, I think it was, points in 4 pool games. Unbelievable. By far the highest point scorer of tier 2 nations. I think he scored something like 38% more points than William Havili, who was in second. So that was exciting. And Fakatava, their top try scorer with 3 tries. I asked this on the Pyropod. Did he mean it? The try against Argentina. Did he?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I say yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything you want to add to Japan. I said I feel like it's a bit cheating because I do feel like they're sort of transitioned to a tier 1.
Tier 1 nation,
especially with the council.
I think they're a tier 1 nation that that's trying to push the other tier 2 nations to its side. I cannot criticize them if they go to the Rugby Championship, because it will be the right path. Sorry, it's like Italy in the 2000s. It was the right path for them. I know Italy got completely molded against France and the All Blacks, but things are changing. And you can see this. I wrote a thread about the turning point for Portugal and Georgia in the last 6 years, and it was the U18s and U20s. Italian U20s are doing well, doing very well. But going to Japan, I think what missed them was against Argentina. They got too excited about it when they were close to do a comeback and turning the score around. It was just the silly mistakes. Look, I was with some friends in Toulouse waiting for the game before going to the stadium, to the media box. And after they scored the try, not the last try, the second last try.
Japan's second last try was Saito.
So the score was 3 points, right? They were 3 points from taking the lead. And I said, okay, when the kickoff comes, they have to gather the ball, do phases, and keep the ball. And what they did was they received the ball well for the first time in like 8 kicks, which was a massive problem for them. But right after it, they tried to kick it like quickly. And it was just a bad kick. It was misplaced kick. And with Argentina, you can't do that. because Argentinian runners are voracious, and Mateo Carrera was completely insane in that match, completely insane. And I think Japan was those. It was that moment they couldn't drop the ball in that moment. It's the same thing against England. I think that try that was Joe Marler who had butted, right?
Yep.
With the Falcon assist, broke the team. It's a lot the little things that broke the team, and I felt sad. I wanted Japan to go through because of Michael Leach. He's one of the longest and best servants of the game, and who deserves everything that's coming his way because he's trying to get Mongolian rugby to flourish. He's working for Japan. He plays, he coaches. It's massive, and I wanted him to go well, but it was not the swan song that he deserved. But at least we got, Dallin Stanford, the rugby commentator from South African commentator who lives in America. You know him, Dallin?
No, I don't know him.
Okay.
I don't know him personally, but I've heard his commentary. I've heard him on a podcast.
Yeah, Dallin shared some photos with Leach fully equipped with the playing equipment at the bar after the game, which is for me perfect example who is Michael Leach, a good guy.
Yeah, I think I wanted them to get to the quarterfinals as well because I think their weaknesses are Wales' strengths. So I think they would have given us. I think we would have had a better chance against them than Argentina. I think, show them the respect of being critical. I think their aerial game was quite poor. England had a lot of joy against them by putting the ball up in the air, and they couldn't compete. And there were just some big missed tackles in midfield. I think if they'd have got to the quarterfinal, George North would have had a field day against them. I think he would have just smashed straight through them. But never mind, I suppose we'll just enjoy the Pumas instead. Oh well. Anyway, is it Chile now, Harley?
Yeah, I think if we go Chile, and then we can have a proper good go at discussing Portugal. I think that's only fair as we have Francisco. As long as you're happy with that, Francisco, and you can.
I want. No, let's go.
So yeah, Chile, the newbies, the first new team for what was it? When was the last time we had a new team in the World Cup?
Pass. Was it? I don't know. Sorry. Is it Portugal in 2007? Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I think. It was either Portugal 2007 or maybe Russia. Was it Russia in the last World Cup? Was their first time?
No, it was not their last. No, it wasn't their first time. I think it was Portugal. Maybe it was Portugal.
Could it have been Uruguay 2015?
No.
No, they were in 2003. Is I think Uruguay.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. Because a father of a player played in their team in 2003 or 1999 or something like that. Ormachea. Yeah, Ormachea.
Yeah, I said it just shows how much prep we've done for this one.
No, it's complicated because we don't want to say it's shocking. So it shows that there's consistency on the teams. But we need new blood. New blood is good. It's always good. It's always refreshing. I'm not a vampire.
So what we said about Chile then? So obviously we've all watched all the Squids Rugby videos and got very excited by them. They scored 4 tries. They got obviously a big scoreline put on them by England. They only kicked 1 conversion, which is an interesting, boring stat. There's not much to say about them, really. I was very impressed by their ball carrying in the first 20 minutes of games. I think they got a lot of go forward. I think, is it too simplistic to say that their game plan was similar to Portugal's in that it was a lot of running, a lot of avoiding contact rather than looking for it? If I'm being very simplistic.
I don't know if you're being simplistic. I think you are saying what you saw, and I think they're not playing like Portugal. It's a hybrid from Portugal and Georgia, I would say, because they like to get physical. If you rewatch the game against Japan, I think that was the game they wanted to win because no one knew what to expect from them, and that first half they came blasting off. And what wasn't good for Chile was the conditioning. Conditioning wise, second half was complicated. You could see that first halves were mainly mildly good, but the second half things didn't go well for them. I think Chile did well for a newcomer. I think it wasn't the worst result in the last 5 newcomers. So let's talk just from the 2003 World Cup to now, so 20 years. I think they did well. I was impressed with Chile, and I hope this inspires the next generation of players to want to play the game.
Yeah, I was so glad to see them get a try against Argentina as well, because that's a big game.
Yeah.
And our first ever South American derby in a World Cup, which I thought was quite nice. Well, yeah, because I don't think Argentina and Uruguay have never been drawn in a pool together, and obviously this is Chile's first World Cup. I thought they had some.
Did the referee
nice
speak
players,
Spanish? Did the referee speak Spanish?
Who was the referee? Was it?
Good question.
I'm not sure they did. If I remember right, I sort of only got vague memory. I said some of these games just sort of start blurring in when you start watching them, and you sort of take priority, and they come so thick and fast. Was it? And I can't remember if it was one I sort of watched on fast forward, or because early in the day I was out with my wife or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't think they did. I've got a feeling it might be someone like Matteo Reynal who officiated.
I know that America's Ovals tweeted that there are 3 teams at the World Cup who speak Spanish and 1 that speaks French, but we will hear referees speaking French but not Spanish.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, let's actually talk about the rugby team.
Just one thing I did want to say is both the Escobars, so Diego the hooker, who I think in the first game.
It's the name. It's the name. It's the name.
It's Diego Escobar won the name, but 2, I think the guy played unbelievably well. And then there's the fly. I don't know why it's always seems to be a fly with Tier 2s. There's always a fly half that excites everyone. Is it Fernandez? I think.
Yes, that's right, Fernandez.
Yeah. Paul Williams who just scores like wonderful tries for fun. I thought they were good value. I mean, I wasn't expecting too much for them. I don't want to be too mean, but
they were on a bad run. I think now that they've lost this game, I think there's something like 11 games in a row they've lost now. I think I'm not sure if they've won a game since they beat USA in the playoff.
No, they won one. I think they won one.
I've got a PowerPoint presentation about them, so why don't I just check that?
Maybe I'm talking. Maybe I'm talking shit. Maybe I think didn't they win this summer 1 game?
I'm checking my PowerPoint.
I don't know unless
Paul Williams was the referee, and I don't think he would have spoken Spanish.
Yeah, Paul Williams. Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was Reynal. Maybe it's just because I'm thinking, the pure vibes that are going to come for.
They beat Brazil twice back to back after they beat USA, and then they haven't won a game since.
Yeah, I think that's.
Thank you.
Which I think is about the order in South America. Unless anyone else has got anything else to say about Chile, I thought they were quite nice. They were a nice, positive team, but
they sum up some Tier 2 teams in that there are gaps. There are some things that they do amazingly, and then there are some things like essential parts of rugby that they just haven't developed yet. So obviously this World Cup was all about getting them on the map. So this next 4 years is about getting them to be the more complete rugby side. So yeah. They had some battering, so I don't want to focus on it. And they committed the worst crime of the World Cup. They made people think that Henry Arundel is good.
You cannot go to England anymore. What
he lives there.
You're gonna die.
I'm not going to get a job for Rugby Pass, am I? I just thought, speaking, I was about to mention that you live in Coventry, and I can't believe we didn't mention the wonderful son of Coventry that plays for Tonga.
Pat Pellegrini.
Yeah,
Pellegrini. I'm seriously considering getting a Coventry season ticket and going to watch them.
You can hear the second part of this interview with Francisco on a love letter to Portugal, which will be out shortly. Enjoy your rugby.
Thank you for listening to the Wrap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.